set? Great, okay. Well, first, thanks for coming this morning. My name is Ron Singleton, and as all of you know, I've been here some number of years, let's say. And this is one of the most exciting things to come through, though. And this I'm talking about, Western got to participate in the EY Global Immersion Program. Do I have the title exactly? Yeah. And the project that we participated in was made possible by a generous grant from EY, and basically it funded most of the expenses for a student group and myself to go on a study abroad program, if you will. But it wasn't all study, and we kind of set up what the objectives of the program were and how we went about doing that. So the purpose of the program is to expand the global understanding and competence of providing a variety of meaningful international business experience for students and faculty too, to kind of bring the faculty along globally, but in particular emphasis on the students. And the team, like I say, my name is John Singleton, and then Catherine Berriman, Alex Weiss, Kelly's here, Molly is here, Allison, and then Paulina. And how we approached it, or how we went about doing it. We had both a classroom experience and a study abroad or international travel experience. So the classroom experience, basically, in fact, putting both parts together, we developed a new course, and it's a stacked course, both undergraduate and graduate level, Accounting 537, and the title is Accounting Global Experience Dash, and this year was Dash London. And, why London? Well, there's another reason, I'll bring it in a moment. The idea was, the classroom experience was to basically get us used to some of the international topics people face and prepare for the study abroad part. The classroom part, basically we just took a whole lot of time, a whole lot of topics, compressed it down in about 24 or 28 hours, something like that, on weekends and evenings and so forth to accommodate schedules. Then, and we went through some of the standard textbook type things, the international accounting standards, a little touch on international taxation, transfer pricing issues, just a good classroom approach to these topics to get us used to those. Foreign currency translation, of course. Then we got into some specific projects, like, well, if you're going to do something in foreign currencies, how would you hedge your position? So the money that we're going to receive as a grant, they had to figure out how to hedge themselves for any foreign currency exposure in the next 2 months. There we go. So that was the start. Then they reviewed some articles that talked about the benefits of international experiences like this. And a country specialization study, they went through extensively, studied the UK, politically, culturally, all these other dimensions other than accounting. Then we finally got into the accounting idea, and well, we're going to go to London. This is great. We got to spend a week, 6 days, and what are you going to do there? And so one approach, of course, is you could just have an all-cultural experience, right? Unfortunately, this team got the person that used to be in public accounting before coming into teaching, and so my idea is, we're going to work, right? Somebody's sending you there, you work. So we got kind of a balance with it. And so before we left, the final thing we did in the classroom was develop a topic that would be a research topic while we were there. And the topic was the convergence of international accounting standards, or IFRS, and US GAAP. And what better place to study that, which is why we picked London. The International Accounting Standards Board is there. So that was the focal point, and how we accomplished it then. The student experiences will let them share, and then the project on the convergence, actually sort of harmonization, is convergence of IFRS and US GAAP. So let me turn that over. I went over my 3 minutes. Sorry. So, because it is a team, and the team did a great job. I was really, really pleased with how they did that.
So, on our arrival in London, we were fortunate enough to have a personal interview with an associate of the IASB, and that associate was Tiernan Ketchum, who currently serves on the financial instruments team at the IASB offices in London. During our classroom study, we talked at length about the current status of convergence between US GAAP and IFRS, and we suspected that convergence between the two reporting frameworks had its day. And this suspicion was confirmed in our interview with Ketchum. And in fact, just 1 week prior to arrival in London, Ian McIntosh, who is the vice chair of the IASB, indicated in a speech that convergence with the FASB is no longer a goal of the IASB. So it was really amazing to hear directly from the source the most up-to-date news on convergence between IFRS and US GAAP and the future direction of the IASB. And according to Ketchum, adoption is the new buzzword circulating the IASB. So they are switching from convergence with US GAAP to a more global focus, and they're setting their agenda based on their worldwide constituents. And this means that the IASB is pushing for full adoption of IFRS as the global reporting framework. And next, Alex will talk to you about the metal exchange.
Yeah, so we had the opportunity to go to the London Metal Exchange, which was really cool, and we got to watch some live trading. This is where more than 80% of the world's non-ferrous metals are traded. Those include aluminum alloy, nickel, tin, and zinc, and they also trade a wide variety of minor metals such as cobalt. This place is unique because it's the last exchange place where they do the open outcry trading method, where people are like literally shouting at each other, bids and offers, and it's a lot of give and take in the ring. It was pretty interesting to watch. They trade futures for certain prices and dates, as well as actual amounts of metals. And what's interesting is that these prices that they set there are used as a global benchmark around the world by manufacturers and people that are dealing with metals. We started watching a video to get a little bit more informed with the LME, but as soon as it started, the action in the pit started too, so we turned our attention down there. And it was pretty hectic. It was 50 suits, everyone with like 3 or 4 phones on the outside of the ring, talking to the clients and trying to communicate from the client to the middleman to the person in the ring, who was just screaming, getting red-faced, talking to the person on the other side of the ring. I'll take 10, and there's crazy hand signals and everything. It was fun to watch. It was pretty interesting. We noticed that some of the employees had different jobs. There were those that talked to the client on the phone, usually 2, and then maybe like trying to hold a briefcase or something too. And those that bid and buy inside the pit. Those that are recording the bids that are going on electronically on a laptop. And then those that are kind of acting as moderators and making sure the rules within the pit are being followed and no inappropriate behavior is being had. It was pretty crazy.
What's
It
that
reminded us of a 1920s kind of stock market, where back in the old days when they had like tickets and they'd be just shouting at one person, and you kind of don't think anything would happen. But amazingly enough, they efficiently communicated prices, and that's how it's communicated around the world. We had a great time. We were really glad we could go. Now, Kelly's going to tell us about our EY experience.
So we had the opportunity to go to the EY London, the Moore London Place office, which is right on the River Thames. Great view. So we met with Leo Vondertoss and Steve Martin, who were partners in the Global IFRS service practice, and they were able to present to us on the growth and effect of IFRS and EY's role with IFRS. So we started with talking about how IFRS has made headway around the world since about 2005, and with like the EU adoption for listed companies, how much it's grown since then. We looked at how the global Fortune 500 companies, their application from using IFRS was really low in 2004 to being like the most used application in 2011. We discussed the 3 drivers for adoption, which included comparability and understandability, the facilitation of international capital markets, and the easier exchange of skills and knowledge across borders. In that, we concluded with how Mr. Vandertoss and Mr. Martin see EY's role in IFRS. They feel that they have a close relationship and they have a lot of contact with them, and they say that they help in drafting high-quality, globally applicable and achievable standards through meetings with the board and staff, and they participate in comment letters, surveys, and conferences. They help to prepare and apply standards through publications, webcasts, and educational materials. They also feel that the key challenge is consistency, but they believe that they can meet this obligation through just talking with constituents, dealing with implementation issues, and educating everyone so that they're on the same level. That I will talk about level 39.
So our last meeting was with one of Dr. Singleton's former MBA students, Bill Shue, and his wife, Jackie. And Bill's the owner of a startup software company called Acadian. And we met at level 39, which is Europe's largest technology accelerator space for finance, retail, and future cities technology companies. And we got to have lunch at the highest elevation restaurant in London. So it was the most beautiful view that we got the entire time. And level 39 is a collaborative workspace for entrepreneurs who have businesses with high growth potential. And Bill and Jackie shared with us how businesses operate in London and the UK. And level 39 is located on the estate of Canary Wharf, which is 97 acres of office and retail space that's privately owned. And the arc from the city of London to Canary Wharf and then up to the Olympic area is all occupied by 20 to 25,000 startup companies. And they shared with us that the UK offers different government incentives for startup companies. For example, they offer a tax credit for individuals or companies who want to invest in startup companies, and at almost no risk because they're offered a tax credit if they end up losing that investment. And also they offer entrepreneurial relief, which reduces the capital gains tax to a lower percentage than it is if they were to normally sell their business. So our meeting with Bill and Jackie opened our eyes up to how businesses operate in London, and we got to see the similarities and differences between there and the US, and it was really great. And now Molly's going to talk about our topic study, convergence.
Yeah, so this course kind of picked up where 343, the third class in the intermediate accounting series, left off, but we took a much deeper dive into the differences between IFRS and US GAAP, and we all got a more technical understanding of what those differences were. But if it weren't for the week that we spent abroad, what I think we all took away from this class wouldn't have been possible. And so at the IASB, we heard from Mr. Ketchum that it had actually divorced the FASB, and so up until that point we had thought that the FASB was still hopeful about convergence, and that they even thought that IFRS might still make concessions to come more together. But what we learned was that they're moving on with or without us, and are really confident that we'll be forced to adopt IFRS if we want any place in capital markets. And so that was kind of new news to us. And then when we were at EY, Mr. Vandertas and Martin spoke about the politicization of financial reporting. And I think from that, we really understood that all of the research and the citations we had been looking at were written from proponents of the FASB. And so now we really got to look at the other side of the story, and hearing from staff level allowed us to get, I think, a lot more candid information than like publications from the IFRS. And so from that week abroad, we were able to gain a lot deeper understanding and hear from the other side and what their opinions were about the situation. And this is Catherine, and she'll be talking about the takeaway from the trip.
All right, well, one of the goals of this trip wasn't that we just had academic takeaways, we also had personal takeaways that we were supposed to grow and develop personally. And so I had to narrow down the things that helped me grow on this trip to 3, so I have 3 things that I felt were good. So first, it brought me out of my comfort zone, and it's really good to get taken out of your comfort zone. It's hard to be in a foreign city, it's hard to use foreign transportation, it's hard to talk to people who have different mindsets than you, but it's really important because it helps you grow as a person. So I think that was great that we had this opportunity. Second, it gave me confidence for further travels in non-English speaking countries. You might think, well, London, why? It's not much of a comfort zone issue because you're still speaking English. But I will say, as a first international experience, it was great for me to experience something that made it easier for me to move on and experience new things. The first weekend I got back, I already started planning my trip to Italy next summer. And my third takeaway, I think, is that it was great to have an early opportunity to travel abroad. I always saw myself traveling abroad maybe 1 or 2 years out of college when I had more money and was more financially able to do that. But this is a great opportunity for us to travel abroad at minimal costs due to this grant. And so all of us had the opportunity, most of us took it to extend our stays and to travel further, and it was great to be able to do that. So I think with that, we just want to say thank you for having this opportunity. This is really great.
So how were you 6 selected for this?
That's like a secret process.
It's what the faculty decided. A bunch of students applied, and then they considered all the applicants and let us know that we were chosen.
Congratulations.
You know, just an observation, I don't know, and I will be quiet eventually, but as far as the takeaway, you know, I was like, well, you know, what did the students get from going on this that we couldn't have done in the classroom? And it's a very different feeling to be in the ISB office and talking to the ISB staff and getting to spend, you know, for the faculty too, you know, when I go back into the international accounting or accounting 343, you know, and I'm talking to them, it's not just an opinion, you know, I mean, you know, here you talk to the people actually setting standards and doing these things and getting a feel. And when they say, well, yeah, you know, the FASB, they can go their own way now. You know, and it's, you know, it's just the impact of it. Yeah, you know, and so the experience, or at least my take on it, you know, I think the students really got a big benefit as far as the paper, you know, because I saw a version of this type of paper when they did intermediate accounting, and looking at the before and the after, and you can really see the influence of getting the feedback from EY, from the ISB, excuse me, and then the entrepreneurial part. You know, that's always exciting to see people doing startup companies. Like that, just the whole spirit of it. So again, a personal thanks. Like I say, I've been here a while, and this was a pretty exciting thing to be doing.
It sounds to me like you were successful in getting the global perspective. I mean, you can sit in the U.S. and read about other places, but until you go there and you feel it, you don't really get a global perspective. You get a U.S. perspective of other places.
That's true.
Part of the objective when we put this together is a couple of things. One, to give them that global perspective, but also give you guys the opportunity to add something to your resume. So when you compete with other students, we see a lot of resumes where people have international experience of some form or another, to give you some type of an opportunity to do that. So the 2 questions I have is, one, have you had a chance to talk to other students about the experience and kind of be the ambassadors of the program, and particularly the younger students coming up, so they have a chance to get involved. And then second, I know some of you are interviewing, have you had the chance to put it on your resume and been asked about it, and get the chance to talk about it?
Yeah, for both of those, I mean, I know a lot of us, if not all, tutor in the accounting center here. And whenever people that are coming up to 321 or maybe homework up to 342, and they're at the point where they could apply, they usually ask, like, hey, you went to London, right, over the summer? And a lot of people like look at my Facebook and they see pictures and stuff, and they ask about it, and then I go, yeah, you should definitely apply. I mean, we're always encouraging it. It's obviously not just me. I've heard all of us say it to the students that have asked. It's definitely a program that I hope will grow. And to the second part, which was what again?
You have to go to
Yeah, you can go from there.
Oh, and it's
Just
definitely
if you
come
have
up in
interviews and resumes, you had a chance to talk about it in a professional setting too.
One of the things we talked about before you guys went was how you can use it when you're doing your interviews, where if the interview's going dry, you've got something to say, hey, by the way, I did this, and take up the time in the interview to make it interactive. So that was my suggestion, we got to go back.
Can we get your slides?
Absolutely.
I'd like to either take the slides and have Mark ride one of our partner dinners, just if it's time, they'll have to do their payment for this year.
We're trying to get
Just
the
show them
name
what came out of it, or even possibly have a couple of you, if you're in Seattle, to come by to one of those meetings and tell them firsthand what their money's going to.
We're all also really involved in bid office size, so I know that in the next coming weeks and next quarter, we're going to be giving announcements and encouraging all the students that are in the that chapter to apply.
Are you guys gonna show this slide next week outside?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, in fact, there's a series of interviews coming up for different things within the college. This year we'll have a little more lead time, you know, on the timing of the interviews or the applications. And are you going to do the slideshow at data outside, or are you going to do more?
Yeah, probably a shortened version, but
Okay.
still get students excited about this opportunity.
On this day last year, there was a session where different student groups got up and talked about different experiences they had in their disciplines. Are you guys presenting to a broader group of the advisory boards today at all?
No, no.
Couldn't
So
see
far.
something the agenda does happen.
They changed the format.
This would be a great one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just to go back to the selection criteria, one of the things that we wanted were people who were going to be here for another year, so that they would have an opportunity to spread this and to talk to other students about this. And of course, we wanted a group of really bright, interested, engaged students who would represent the university well. And I think we were successful on all those counts.
I think you guys did a fabulous job. We've got a great inaugural group to kick the program off and to share with our partners on the success of the program and great representatives of the first year.
I'm not sure, you probably maybe shared this wrong, but Leo Werner talks about it fairly well. He sent me a very nice note about the meeting he had. It was very complimentary, and you guys are very engaged, very well researched. And he is a teacher by trade. If you didn't know that, he didn't tell you that, but he really enjoyed the session as well.
Yeah, he was great. Thank you very
I think there's a question back there.
much. Sorry.
So here's my question.
Yeah.
So you came over representing the U.S. and FASB, and here you were in the, you know, kind of like the enemy's house. And right from the tax guy, so I always think it's stupid anyway, you know, I'm not a person. So my question is there's a multiple part question. Did you feel somewhat defensive, number one? Number two, did they influence you to, if you were a FASB advocate to begin with, to think a different way? And number three, I guess, from a Western teaching standpoint, you know, how do you is it a pro-FASB approach, or is it, hey, let's teach both and let everyone figure it out, because they may go overseas, they may stay here? So I asked a lot of questions, I guess, within that one, but the first one is, did you feel like, wow, we're going to go visit the enemy, or was it more just I mean, how did you feel about it?
Where was Ketchum from? Go ahead.
At the ISIB, maybe that's like probably the best response to that. I don't think we felt like that intimidated by them or like the enemy, which was weird because I thought we would. I was coming into that impression. But what was so amazing was that he was just so, they seemed a lot more confident. Like, we're going to do our own thing. You're not even really like the enemy anymore. It's just kind of do you kind of thing. But yeah, so we didn't really feel like we were the enemy at all.
I think it did feel weird because America tends to be very America focused. I can say that being Canadian. So,
Which is part of America, by the way.
So yeah. So America tends to be very American focused, and we think that we're the best. And then we went there, and they were a little bit like, we don't even care. Like they literally said to us,
We have the rest
at
of
this
the world.
point, we have the rest of the world.
Yeah.
It's up to you now. We're not even going to seek that out at
You're
this
not as
point.
important as you think you are.
Exactly, and that was a little bit like shocking.
Because that's not what we learned in our
No.
textbook.
No.
American office.
They said 1770.
What was kind of interesting too is,
No, well, the other part of it was, how is the curriculum taught here? I mean, obviously, you have to teach FASB, but I'm not really sure how the international standards are taught, or are they taught? I mean, they have to be, I presume, but how do you feel about
oh,
the two
well, I think
camps?
the big takeaway from me on it too was just this idea that, well, gave you guys a chance. And again, the irony is that the U.S. is one of the early initiators of the IASC and then the IASB and so forth. And it's like, well, we got it started, and then it's like, okay, we gave you a chance, you're either on or off, and so we just, decided, okay. It's in fact, Mark gave us a really important site there with Cox, the former SEC chair.
Yeah.
He's turned 180. He was a big proponent. He was chair of the SEC. Well, he's changed now. and is saying, we don't need to be on this ISP, sorry, this IFRS bandwagon. And so being there and listening to that kind of discussion, it's kind of like, well, okay, folks, pub's closing, time to go. You're going that way, I'm going this way. And that was kind of the takeaway.
It sounded like what they also said on the way out was, and we're going to bury you.
Of course, what kind of mitigated that to some degree is the EY. Notice there were 2 EY partners there. Leo is from the Netherlands, right?
Yep.
And then Steve Martin. Steve Martin's from the Bay Area. So we got
Yeah.
both approaches there with them. So that was a little less,
Yeah.
conflicting, I think. Well, the same in the reference I was making to the ISB, the person making the presentation, his last name is Ketchum. Well, he's actually from Ketchum, Idaho. And so he had gone a sort of, very interesting path to wind up working with the IASB. And so that kind of balanced it to some degree. But it was very interesting to go in and see, like, okay, here we are. And it wasn't combative necessarily, but it was pretty much like I say, well, pub's closed, see you later.
Bruce, to go to your point about curriculum, as we cover particular topics in the curriculum, the textbooks all include a little section on the IASB perspective. So the students do see that as they progress through the intermediate sequence.
So part of the idea of this too is to move it around the world. Any other ideas of?
He's got it next.
Too, but I know you're thinking of London again, but any thought beyond that of some other big cities that we've talked about?
Well, of course, thinking strategically, the first time, first 3, and then maybe the next 3, and the next 3, okay? And I'd kind of set it up, well, the first 3 would be looking more at financial accounting issues. This is a personal bias, you need a structure to get it started. And so we're thinking now maybe London and the financial. What came out of this discussion was the significance of financial instruments as a real sticking point. I mean, LIFO inventory is like, okay, you're different, so what? You can get around that one. Financial instruments, as the team agree, that seemed to be the one that had the most depth of differences. And so we were casually talking about that would be the next one. And then maybe shifting away from financial a little bit towards some of the managerial accounting issues, maybe some cases from private industry that would address some of the issues that they're working with. I have some contacts in Finland that's thinking about the merger and so forth. What kind of, that'd be a perfect kind of case. It's a pretty big case, but something within that, as a topic perhaps, or a case, and bring some cases from private industry or from you folks that we could take on, whether we could address when we go there too. So, and then after, say, the first 4 or 5 years, maybe a shift to Asia, maybe more of a trading issue or a trade economic type issue instead of accounting so much. So that's kind of the vision I had. Is over the next 9 years, kind of a split, 3-3-3 and so forth, as in traveling around. And at some point, hitting our biggest trading partner that I don't think we've annexed him yet, but maybe back to Ottawa or something like that, with Canada, some of the Canadian issues. Again, more of a trade focus probably. That's the kind of dream I have.
I think to a certain extent it's going to be project driven, because we don't want to do a tour. We want to do a project. There's got to be something to be worked on. So finding the project is going to be important.
We were just talking, but we'll save the discussion for later. Right before we came in, we were talking with someone about a potential case. Well, thank you very much, and again, very special because it's been quite a term, and coming to this is pretty cool. This is
I want to say thank you to Marty and Ron. He did an incredible job moving. The university bureaucracy, particularly with new curriculum, moves very, very slowly, and both of them did an incredible job.
Now, Marty was special. It was like, what? You got to be
Permission
kidding.
the paperwork.
Marty did a wonderful job.
So, thank you to both of you.
Thanks all. Thanks to the team, too.
Could you students kind of come forward and stand shoulder to shoulder a minute? The camera can get a better picture that way. Yay.